Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. I hope you had a great weekend. Africa sees increase in foreign investment, bucking global trend. FDI inflows to Sub-Saharan Africa grew 13% in 2018. South Africa was the top performer. Nigeria suffered. Africa, in contrast to developed economies, which saw FDI inflows plunge 27%. South African region got $4.2 billion, up from negative $925 million in 2017. South Africa more than doubled to $5.3 billion. Nigeria plunged 43% to $2 billion. Investors were put off by a dispute between the government and MTN. HSBC, UBS closed representative offices. Ghana, inflows of $3 billion. West Africa's leading destination for foreign investment. Ethiopia top in East Africa, $3.3 billion. Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania also increases in FDI inflows. Uganda jumped 67% to $1.3 billion, consortium that includes Total, CONOC, and Tullow Oil. A very interesting piece that Howard French picked up on about late 10th century Fauvel describes an order of payment, what we might call a check, sent by a sub-Saharan African merchant to a businessman in the Moroccan town of Sijil Massa for the sum of 42,000 dinars. And then talking about Abu Bakr, who was said to have equipped an expedition involving 200 ships that attempted to discover the furthest limit of the Atlantic Ocean. Caravans of gold, fragments in time. Sudan ousted a brutal dictator. His successor was his enforcer. Once a camel trader who led a militia accused of genocidal violence in Darfur, General Mohammed Hamdan now sits at the pinnacle of power in Sudan, overlooking the scorched streets from his wood-panelled office, high up in the military's towering headquarters. A lanky man with a primary school education, 4 wives, and no formal military training, he's enjoying the trappings of his new position. We thought this might happen, said Abu Salah, 22. For years, Hemeti killed and burned in Darfur. Now Darfur has come to Khartoum. As I wrote, the zeitgeist of the revolution in Khartoum was intoxicating. Now we have 2 visions of the future. One is what we saw in front of us. The other is MBS, MBZ, and LCC. Last night, I was sitting with friends having tea when an RSF soldier steals someone's phone and walks away. Later, an RSF soldier buys a cigarette and gives the lady a £100 note. Keep the change. KSA gives us a lot of money. President Isaiah Afwerki of Eritrea applauded Sudan's armed forces for its pivotal role in taking sides with the population at a crucial moment, thereby enabling the country to return from the edge of a precipice. China BRIs making inroads into port investments in sub-Saharan Africa. Chinese investment was present in about 17% of the 172 sub-Saharan African ports captured in the 2017 World Port Index. And as I've said before, and quoting Andrew Korobiko, the Indian Ocean region is expected to become the geostrategic center of gravity in the new Cold War. The hidden worth of the global African diaspora. Remittance flows to many countries in the global south are larger than the official development assistance received from the West and more stable than private capital flows. Contribution remittance to GDP is growing. In the period from 2004 to 2017, it grew from 0.93% to 7.47% in Ghana, from 12.31% to 18.7% in Liberia, from 2.59% to 5.85% in Nigeria. Even in countries such as Somalia, where a quarter of GDP comes from remittances, this barely figures in any reports. CNN once called the African diaspora the continent's secret weapon. It's true. South African all share up 10.35% year to date. Dollar rand 14.79. Egyptian pound 16.833. Egyptian EGX 30 up 9.01% year to date. In Nigeria's oil-rich Niger Delta, oil bunkering, the practice of siphoning oil from pipelines, has transformed parts of the once thriving Delta ecosystem into an ecological dead zone. Edward Batinsky. Interesting an article in The Economist about mobile money coming to Nigeria. Nigeria, largest economy, most populous country, 200 million people. Mobile money was used for transactions worth just 1.4% of GDP, compared with 44% in Kenya. That's why I said M-Pesa is the jewel in Safaricom's crown. Stable electricity is not rocket science, and Nigeria is blessed with an embarrassment of gas resources. If Nigeria's leaders had the ability to solve Nigeria's electricity problem, they would have done so before we were born, but they don't. Everything else is big grammar. Nigerian all shares down 4.4% year-to-date. Ghana Stock Exchange down 3.9% year-to-date. Look at this comparison between Ghana, Angola, and Kenya 10-year bonds.